Pat, just want to talk about the talk of this super spreader. So they've been able to track through genomic sequencing, and they think one person has been a huge part of the north and west areas of Melbourne here through this spread. Talk us through what we learned about this in the news conference.
Yeah, Tom, it should be clarified that that is a theory as to why there are so many cases in this northwest corridor of Melbourne. The Health Minister Jenny Mikakos brought it up initially, saying that genomic testing indicated that there was a single super spreader responsible for the majority, if not all, of these cases in the northwest corridor. Of course, we already know from that genomic testing that a vast majority, a substantial amount of all of Victoria's cases can be linked back to the hotel quarantine program. But when the Deputy Chief Health Officer was asked about this super spreader, if the government knew who it was, or Annalise Van Diemen, the Deputy Chief Health Officer, clarified, saying that this is just a theory at the moment. It's one of many options that are being looked at, and the government doesn't know who this individual may be.
Yeah, no, good to clarify that. And just finally, this is pretty disturbing stuff, isn't it? The questions on the hotel quarantine program, and we're getting some reluctance from the Andrews government now to go into detail. They're saying, well, there's an inquiry. That's right. You're going to be hearing that phrase a lot over the next few weeks out of Spring Street. Just wait until the inquiry finds out what happens. That was the chiming from the Jenny Mikakos, the Health Minister here in Victoria, as well as the Premier, when they were asked about who was managing the contracts with these private security firms. Of course, we have heard some pretty salacious allegations that guards were having relationships with guests who were supposed to be in lockdown, that they were being let out of their rooms, that guards were not being provided with proper training, and that they were being advised not to undertake coronavirus tests. Now, when asked if the health department was responsible for managing these contracts with private security firms, who were, of course, looking after the hotel quarantine program here in Victoria, Jenny Mikakos, the health minister, responded that it was not her department that was responsible. But when quizzed which department was, she said that we'll have to wait until what the inquiry has to determine. That was the same thing the Premier said when he was also pressed, asked if it was perhaps the Department of Jobs that was in charge of managing the contracts with the private security firms.
What I can say to you, it's not my department, okay? You asked me a question and I'm saying to you, it's not DHHS, and that is why it's important that the judicial inquiry completes its work, explains what role every agency played.
It is not a matter of necessarily one single department being responsible for this.
Of course, that inquiry will be led by a former judge here in Victoria. The opposition not exactly happy with it, though. They say the terms of reference are too broad and they don't include government ministers, only government departments.
There's no indication that this inquiry has got any power to compel people to attend, compel the production of documents either. This isn't an inquiry, this is a cover-up.
The opposition has called on Health Minister Jenny Mikakos to resign.